Thank you so much for having me today. I've been listening to Alok, and his words are inspiring, and he just gives us the sense of urgency that we need. I've been watching the images coming from Uttarakhand in the last couple of days, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see the devastation, but especially the suffering of the people. And it's very difficult not to link this with the challenges we're facing in terms of climate change and also biodiversity loss. It is very much linked to the way we relate to our natural environment, I believe. And this is sadly not the only tragedy that is happening worldwide because of this. I think this should be a very important lesson to all of us. And we should strongly express our solidarity with the people of Uttarakhand, that they know that they're not alone in this. But in my remarks today, I want to insist on the fact that we stand at a pivotal moment, I believe, in the fight against the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis. Tipping points are getting dangerously near. And I think, frankly, we only have a couple of years left to make the necessary changes in our policies if we really want to avoid reaching those tipping points. How we shape the recovery from the pandemic, I believe, will determine whether we can succeed in realizing a success with our fight against the climate crisis. In late 2019, we, the European Union, committed to becoming the world's first climate neutral continent by 2050. And I certainly hope that others will beat us to it. It's not that we want to be the first, but we committed to be the first. Hopefully, others will be faster. That will be even better for the world. But that's a target we've set for ourselves. I think we have to build this, and I believe that the Green Deal, which is based on that goal, is a comprehensive plan to make our economy and society ready for a climate neutral future, a future where we live in harmony with our natural environment. It applies to every sector and every region and appeals to everyone to grasp the opportunities inherent to the transition. And to make it happen, we want to set our goals into law. So the 2050 climate neutrality goal will be set in law. And hopefully also the target we are negotiating now with the European Parliament and the governments of reducing our emissions by 2030 with 55% as compared to 1990 will also be set into law. So that will force us to take the measures in all the policy areas, whether it's energy or building or transport or agriculture, that would lead us to actually getting to that goal. And I think this is an important issue for nations worldwide. It is relatively easy to declare that you're going to be carbon neutral or climate neutral by 2050, but to actually have a plan that is realistic and takes you there is, I think, more important than just a declaration. We're not in an area of traditional diplomacy here. We're in an area where what you do at home is the only way you can create credibility internationally to convince others to do the same. And here, I honestly think we need to help each other. We need to help each other because we all have different starting positions. We all have different challenges, but the solutions to the challenges very often are the same. And the most important thing I would like to mention in this context is that it is my firm belief that this transition has to be just if it is going to happen. It's a just transition or there's just no transition. I'm absolutely convinced of that. People who are most vulnerable in our societies suffer more whenever there's something that happens that disrupts society. We see it in the pandemic. We will see it with the climate crisis. We will see it in the biodiversity crisis. And if people see this in democracies such as ours, they will not be part of the change. They believe that they will be left behind and then the change will not happen. So I think this is a fundamental issue for any democracy to face. I would like to say with Mr. Desai that we can be more optimistic than a couple of years ago. When we launched our plans, it was pretty lonely out there. But since then, so many nations internationally have moved in this direction. And indeed, the consensus about what needs to be done is growing and growing very quickly. Climate denial is no longer a challenge, I would argue. I think climate desperation will become a challenge if we don't actually create some successes in the near future. Then people will just give up because they say it's a lost cause anyway. So why go through all the trouble? We need to avoid that at all cost. I think that's why the two COPs we're seeing this year, the one in Kunming and especially the one in Glasgow, are going to be crucial. Crucial, not just for the international relations, but especially for convincing our citizens that we mean business and that we have a plan and that they are part of that plan to get us where we need to be. And I hope, I want to mention this explicitly because I believe it is also of great, great importance to India. I hope that we can increase the sense of urgency as far as biodiversity is concerned. I think nobody needs to increase the sense of urgency for the climate crisis. But the threatening ecocide, that is a direct threat to our very existence, should be higher on everyone's agenda. And I hope we can work on that in the next couple of months before the summit in China. Now, since I'm speaking, even if it's just virtually in India today, allow me to add a few words on our host country. Both the EU and India are strong defenders of the Paris Agreement. And as Alok has said, Prime Minister Modi was instrumental for reaching an agreement in Paris. Both sides are also very ambitious. Again, Prime Minister Modi has pledged that by 2047, Centennial India will exceed the world's expectations in what it will have done to counter climate change is something to look forward to. And it just shows how ambitious India is. So while we are both still big users and importers of fossil fuels, we have the ambition to lead an energy efficiency and renewable energy future that will revolutionize the way we produce and use energy. The targets for renewable energy India has set for 2030 are really impressive, and they will help boost the global market for renewables, also in terms of technology development. And that will lead to a lower cost for consumers. With renewables rapidly becoming a cheaper alternative to coal, the expansion of renewable energy can also help create a just transition away from coal. And we see it in the European Union that member states, sometimes still heavily based on coal, know that there's no future in coal, and they're now quickly developing plans to get out of coal, and more rapidly than was anticipated before. We're also looking at energy efficiency in buildings, solar energy, smart grids to integrate renewable energy, and offshore wind, which is taking a really, really interesting development right now. Looking ahead, I see opportunities to cooperate also on green hydrogen, on the just transition, and on sustainable energy infrastructure in the wider Asian region. I think India is really ahead of many countries, but others are catching up very quickly, is my impression. Clean energy alone is not enough to build a climate neutral and sustainable future. Also, as I said, on biodiversity, we need to work together to strengthen our ecosystems, preserving forests. Only a quarter of European forests are actually in good health, which means that 3/4 need to be improved. Our ambition in the next 10 years is to plant 3 billion trees. But we need to do it in a smart way. We need to share knowledge with countries like India, which already have a lot of knowledge in this area. And we need to make sure that we do this in a way that increases our resilience. Now, in many places across the world, what we want most right now is for everything to go back to normal. That we can hug our friends again, that I can finally see my grandson again, that we can have dinner with strangers again, or go out to sport events again, that offices, schools, universities reopen in fall, that we can travel again. I mean, I don't have to tell you what we're all missing, and that our economies can recover, but we should be careful not to say that our economies should go back to normal. Because apart from the climate crisis, apart from the diversity crisis, we're also in an industrial revolution. And we're mobilizing in Europe massive amounts of money that we need to spend in the right way, because this needs to be brought back through economic growth and through innovation. If we put this money into industries that have no future, we will just put a gigantic burden on the shoulder of our kids and grandchildren in terms of finances without giving them anything in return for that. And we need to make sure that we use this time to really innovate our economies at world scale. This cannot be done in one continent. This cannot be done by nations alone. This needs to be done at a world scale. So let us open the gates to green growth and a healthy future for all. And let this be the year where in 10 or 20 years' time, we can tell our children and grandchildren that we set the first steps that took us on the road to real and sustainable recovery. Thank you very much.